this just act of revenge. And I also agree with the journalists that we probably have to expect more of them to come.
Speak to Vadym Prystaiko, who is Ukraine's ambassador to the UK. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Do you have any latest figures about casualties and fatalities of what is happening in Ukraine right now?
That's what you already been discussing. We are just counting unfortunately, the deaths, and we are trying to understand how can we recover the wounded. The most of the rockets been shot down by our anti-air, but the rest of them fell on Ukrainian heads. This just act of revenge, and I also agree with the journalists that we probably have to expect more of them to come.
And clearly, you're saying that this was inevitable after the bridge attack. What's your information about what happened to that bridge in Crimea?
Here in London, we do not have much of the information to find the details. What we know that this is if we come back to the bridge itself for a second, don't forget that this installation was built against all the laws and regulations. It's limiting our maritime traffic. It's connecting occupied territory to the mainland Ukraine, Russia. So this bridge was always a legitimate military target, and it's not civilian. It's just infrastructure, the big concrete structure. What they are doing, they are targeting the energy hubs just before the winter, and they targeted, unfortunately, the civilian buildings.
Well, I mean, absolutely, everything you've said is factually correct. But I suppose that the people who were behind the attack on the bridge in Crimea would know that it would be inevitable that Vladimir Putin would not take something like that lying down, and that he would do exactly what he has done this morning.
We knew it before. When we started defending our lands, we knew that he would escalate higher and higher. And even before the breach, they were targeting civilian buildings, schools, kindergartens, hospitals. So there is nothing new in here. Actually, it's reinforcing our not just ability, but actually urge to fight back. And many of Ukrainians, I just had telephone conversations with the Ukrainian officials. They are doing it from their homes and basements, but they're still working as they did before. We are full of confidence that that's the only way we have to fight.
Do you have any information about the timing of this attack? And the reason I'm talking about the bridge is because without the bridge, you're saying it was a legitimate target and it wasn't a civilian target. Without that bridge, what happened today wouldn't have happened. So are you aware of any other, is there going to be anything else similar to that? Is this now the Ukrainian kind of modus operandi?
You're asking whether we're going to hit any other targets of significance for Russians? Yes.
Yes.
We will. What we are trying to achieve right now is the military victory on the ground. We are not targeting Russian civilian infrastructure anywhere, especially beyond the Ukrainian official borders with Russia. But to achieve the victory, we will have to push further and further. We have now the ability to strike beyond the front lines. So that's what we are going to do. And that's what the military, unfortunately, that's the war is. We wanted to finish it at any moment. Russians are eager to get off our territory.
And do you have the equipment, the weaponry to carry out those further attacks?
That's one of the reasons we were asking from the very beginning. Our partners and our Western colleagues were talking about the risk of escalation, what they see right now. We were telling them that we are unfortunately dragging this war longer and longer. If you are to give us these weapons, allowing us to militarily effectively defeat them on battleground, please do it right now. Don't put our civilians at risk. And Russians were doing it regardless of the breach. They were targeting the centers in Ukraine all over this 7 months.
And Vadym, just finally then, presumably the advice to civilians in Ukraine is to kind of go backwards almost to what you were telling them in February and March and April, which is to protect themselves, to go to bomb shelters?
That's what President Zelensky did in his morning announcement, and he was reaching out to all the Ukrainians, trying to warn them to get back to, unfortunately, to the shelters. Today in Kyiv, the metropolitan, the subway station is not working. It's been used and been built actually as the bomb shelter. Now the mayor is bringing the people there, bringing the food, bringing the generators, everything. We're again in a very active sort of stage of war.
Well, that's an incredibly chilling thing to hear, but I understand why you say that. Vadym, thank you for talking to us. That's Vadym Prystaiko. He's Ukraine's ambassador to the UK.